please introduce yourself to us?
My name is Donnie Fan. I'm a stand-up
Mm-hmm.
comedian from New York City, and I'm based in Beijing, China. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
co-founder of the Comedy Citadel, Chongbao Shiju. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 3 years, um,
Okay.
and I've been all over China. I just got back from a trip in Malaysia. I'm going back to Malaysia, and then I go to Bali, and then I'm going over to you guys in Vancouver, and then hopefully Toronto right after.
Great. Got so many questions from that brief introduction. So first of all, why Beijing?
Why Beijing? Okay, so cool. I am from New York, and I was doing a lot of different art stuff in New York City in 2013, 2014, and I worked on a Chinese opera, 一个中文的歌剧. Yeah, so I wrote this play with a Chinese friend of mine, and I had to watch like all of these really old Chinese movies from like the 1940s and 1950s to understand like kind of the culture of the opera. And I just got
Mm-hmm.
so sucked in. And then I started to watch like modern Chinese movies, like a lot of the Zhang Yimou films, like 或者, To Live. I just got more and more hooked. Then I started watching my favorite Chinese movie is Da Hua Xiu, A Chinese Odyssey, Part 2. Part 2, I like Part 2 a lot more than Part 1. And other movies like Fei Cheng Wu Rao and stuff like that. So I just got hooked, and as a screenwriter, I wanted to come to China and do like Chinese movies that had American kind of like American ideas for storytelling, but telling Chinese stories. And I'm mixed, by the way, so like 我是混血. So it was always something I wanted to do. And that's how I ended up in Beijing. And then I was doing like films and screenplays and stuff like that. And then once COVID came, I wasn't really working in that industry anymore. There were no jobs for me, and I just started doing stand-up comedy as an interest. It's something I always wanted to do, and then that's how I got started in Beijing, and it's been great.
Seems like so. So okay, and what's drive you into comedy?
So yeah, it's an old question, and I think it's similar for most people. Well, I guess not in China. You know, a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
just getting introduced. Like a lot of people tell me I'm the first stand-up comedian they've ever seen. And I'm like, you've never like watched
Okay.
Ali Wong or anything like that? They're like, I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it. I'm like, oh my God, that's insane. Because, growing up in New York, like comedy is everywhere. And just anywhere in America, really, like comedy is just part of the Western lifestyle. Um, and I've been watching comedy since I was probably about 10, 11 years old. And it was something I've always dreamed of doing. I just never thought it would be for me. I'm somebody who's very emo. Most of my screenplays for movies and theater are very like tragic, sad stories. In 2020, I went to go see this comedy show, this local comedy show. It was called Comedy Without a Net. And they get mad when I say this, but it's true. It was terrible. It was so bad. It's like this thing where like the comedians do stand-up comedy, but they don't write jokes before they do it. So they're like given a topic and they have to come up with something like really fast. And it was
Mm-hmm.
terrible. It was so bad. And like they were missing somebody, so somebody from the audience went on stage to do it. And like despite how bad it was, everybody was having a great time. Everybody was laughing. Everybody was having fun. There was no like real jokes being told. But I just saw this community, and in Beijing, it just looked like a really fun community to join, and that was how I got involved.
I see.
Yeah,
So then just let's do a quick answer game. How about that?
cool. Yeah, my answers are
Okay.
long.
Uh, yeah. Are you ready now? Like,
Yes.
okay. Um, apple or orange?
Orange,
Chicken or beef?
beef,
Boy or girl?
girl,
Why people want to see your show?
why people want to see my show, because I do jokes about oranges, beef, and girls.
It sounds like Ali wants to.
I,
Yep.
yeah, I want real quick. Why do people want to see my show? I do
Right.
a lot of stuff about mixed culture. So yeah.
Okay. So why does the Chinese community want to see a English show?
I think language is culture. And I
Yeah.
think that a lot of our audience, especially in China, like the audience that goes to see an English show, yeah, you have some people trying to improve their English. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make my listening skills better? But it's more about the culture. Like there are things you can say, they're not even bad things, they're not sensitive things. Just the way
Mm-hmm.
we share culture through language is different. And so you can hear the same jokes in Chinese that you hear in English and have a totally different experience, because you're unlocking like a different part of your brain. I think English comedy for the Chinese audience and
Sure.
for our audience is a place where people feel like they can laugh about more different kinds of topics
Mm-hmm.
and ideas, and you can point fun at some of the cultural things, some of the cultural differences, and it doesn't feel so harsh. You know, if I can swear, like for me, if I say like "what's how," my Chinese friends sometimes look at
Mm-hmm.
me like, "That's so rude. Why would you say that?" It's like they
Mm-hmm.
hear it and they're like they hear it's harsh, even though they say it all the time, right? But when they hear it from me as a foreigner, they're like, "That's how could you say that?" But then my
No
Chinese
offense.
friends will say "fuck" all the time. They're like, "I have no feeling. I can say fuck." Like they don't care. It's like, oh, it's an English word. It doesn't mean much. Um, that I think applies to the comedy. Like when you hear things in English comedy, you're able to be a little bit looser
Mm-hmm.
with some of the things that we joke about and talk about. And yeah, I think because I'm mixed, I do include some Chinese in my shows. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
talk about my experiences in China, and I think uh for a lot of the Chinese audience in Vancouver and in Toronto or New York City where I'm going, like a lot of those audience they're dealing with the same things that I deal with, which is you're in a different country, you're in a different culture, your parents may or may not be from that culture, and you're just trying to find your identity. And my whole comedy show, my whole special is about me trying to find my identity. And I think that a lot of Chinese students relate to that as well. um and I think there's a lot of that they we're gonna have a lot of fun.
For sure. Second question will be, how do you feel about the local community, like the English speaking community? Like, why do they must see this show? What makes you different from the other shows they have seen before?
It's international. It's very international. You know, I'm not gonna be going to Vancouver and making jokes like, "Did you guys see what was on the news yesterday?" Because I don't know what was on the news in Vancouver yesterday. Like I know like when you go to a
It's
local
about
show.
China.
that's, that's funny. Yeah, I think that my comedy is about my own personal experiences, and there's a lot that again, seeking your identity is not just something that Chinese people do. It's everybody everywhere in the world is trying to find out who they are. And my
Yep.
comedy show deals with that. So I think when you go to local shows, it's a lot of like recent politics, it's a lot of recent news stories, it's a lot of like in Beijing, for example, every foreign comedian who comes in, they're like, oh, did you see squat toilets? Like, where's the regular toilet? It's like, oh, everybody does that joke, right? I'm not doing the jokes everybody does. I'm doing the jokes about my life. And hopefully that's something that people from every background can enjoy.
Sure. And last but not least, like, I think you answered this question before, but I I just thought it might be a really important part of your show, but I want to hear it from you, is I know you are your parents are from both China and so you are trying to find who you are in New York and back to China along this journey. I think we got the group has the similar path like you, but in the opposite way.
Oh, for
We
sure.
call them CBC.
ABC, CBC, Canadian Born
Exactly.
Chinese. What about
Right.
do you have the VBC, Vancouver Born Chinese? VBC? It sounds
Well, Vancouver based is just basically another side of Hong Kong, so we don't consider them as foreigners. So, like, yeah, they drink hot tea for the first thing when they wake up. So, I'm kidding. But
man.
the thing is, actually, to be honest with you, the first time we we get to connect, I ran to my friends in Beijing for in the first minute, and that's the comment I hear from my friend of your show is saying you are focused on yourself and you are talking about your own life stories, and that actually interests me.
Whoa!
Because
Your friend saw my show in Beijing? Who?
Amy, I don't know if you know her, but she's kind of an expert of the comedy show in China. Yep, she knows it. And here's the case. Like, the thing interests me is around our life in Vancouver. Actually, we have a giant population of those mixed culture people. They have they either have like parents from Canada or China, or they are both of the parents from China, but they grew up in Canada. So I see a giant culture gap in their backgrounds. And I'm seeing they are, I'm not saying confused, but or struggling, but I see those kind of conflicts on themselves. So I just really want to introduce your show to those people.
So first of all, like you're 100% right. Like, I do think generally most people struggle with like identity, but the problem with being either mixed race or growing up abroad, somewhere like, especially in New York City, there's Chinese people from all over China. And what's really interesting is like China's so big. So you might have like some kid who was born to parents from Fuzhou, and then some kids whose parents were born in Shanghai, and then some kids whose parents were born in Beijing, and they're all just in the same room. And people are like, you guys have the same culture. You're all Chinese. It's like, whoa, those are three totally different like cultures. Like basically, like those three kids are going to have totally different backgrounds just because of where in China their parents are from. And so what you end up feeling when you're in this situation is that there's nobody who can relate to you. There's nobody around you who really knows what you're feeling or what you're thinking. And I think that's true for most people, but I feel like, you know, a lot of people, the thing they say to me is I don't look Asian, right? And in China, Chinese people all say, you don't look Asian, you look Mexican sometimes they say Middle Eastern. I have the joke.
That's why you don't shave.
Yeah, that's why I don't shave. But in America, I grew up and everybody, when I was a little kid, everybody would look at me and say like, are you Chinese? Are you Japanese? Are you kind of Asian? You don't look totally Asian, but you must be part, right? So you just feel like on both sides, you don't fit in. And so I think, you know, not all of my show is about that, but I think that the perspective that I have is very much so part of this, of just not fitting in anywhere. So I don't necessarily have jokes that are specifically like, this is what it's like to be mixed. No, I don't have too many of those jokes, but I think the feelings from my jokes are things that a lot of people can understand. And I think that's where we'll connect. So if you're just like somebody who's just sitting around like, I don't know if I really fit in with anybody, like come hang out with me. Come hang out with my story for an hour. And you might still not feel like you fit in anywhere, but at least we can not fit in together. That's what I would say.
Yup. I think that's beautiful. I think it's
It's
beautiful.
kind of
Yeah,
depressing.
because yeah, I think that something could touch people's heart. You have the connection in that way.
I hope so. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's how I feel about the comedians I look up to and the comedians I watch. I'm
yeah. So follow that up. Like, do you think you are cured now? Do you know who you are now?
no, I'm certainly not cured. I am just as lost as ever. If I was cured, I wouldn't be doing stand-up comedy. Um
I see.
but I don't think we ever, get cured in a sense. I think
Mm,
we're not like pork. We're not cured pork.
nope.
I feel like I am always going to be kind of on this path towards identity. I think I'm comfortable with being lost. I think for a long time I
Mm,
wasn't comfortable with it. I think I was just lost. I didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, like from day to day. But now I feel a lot more comfortable just being whatever I am. I have a lot of
mm.
my own issues. I've got a lot of issues in my head, but everybody does, and I think it's I'm just trying to work through my own.
So in that process, what's the role of comedy?
Oh, so comedy, the role that comedy takes in my life is really a place where I do get to be uh I guess my stage persona. Like when I started comedy, I thought that I wanted to go on stage and tell jokes that were um like pointing out how like all these funny things in the world, right? And I didn't really care
Mm,
about who I was on stage, but as I started to kind of be more of myself on stage, um I feel like I get to put on like a little bit of a mask, a little bit of makeup. I'm still myself on stage, but I'm a different version of myself. I'm like I'm
protected.
yeah, I'm a little bit more protected, yeah. And I think comedy allows me to have this very cathartic like a release of a lot of the
Mm,
anxiety and tension that I have, and release it in a way that's funny, that makes people feel good. Like I
yeah.
every time you get off stage and people I'm gonna say something a little bit depressing, but it's something I actually really feel. I think comedy is really interesting because when I'm on stage and everybody's laughing, I feel like I'm part of this like group that's like all really happy people. And then I get off stage and people come up to me and they say things like, today was my birthday and this was like the best birthday party I've ever had, like being here and just laughing for 2 hours. This was awesome, Donnie. Thank you so much. And it's really cool. Like I feel so good. And then like when the show's done, everybody comes in, everybody says like, great job, great job. And then they all leave. And then it's just kind of the comedians like still sticking around, hanging out with each other. And
Yeah.
it's kind of lonely after. um it's lonely right in that moment because you just see all of these very very high happy people that you were part of making feel that happy. Um and then afterwards like kind of life goes back to normal a little bit. It's a big drop off. But when I sit and I used to feel really sad and depressed in those moments, like how come I don't get to leave like all high and happy? Like I'm still here by myself. But I think as time has gone on and I've done more and more comedy shows, I really look forward to that moment, to seeing all the people after the show, praise you and or praise me, not because they're praising me, but just because I know that I am bringing a happiness and joy to people who came to the comedy show because they also needed it. It's like I'm a tool for them, and I think that's something that that's kind of my perspective on it. So like, what does the role of comedy? It's like I'm able to use comedy to help other people escape their lives for
Hmm.
just a little bit of time.
Yeah, I have to say totally agree with that. Like, yeah, that's my feeling too. Like when you are on the stage, it's a safer place to be who you are
Yeah,
than the normal life.
for sure.
Like for the empty space after a great show, like you feel lonely, you feel empty, you feel just bored. That's actually the place for smoke after sex.
Yeah, it would be nice if I had sex too, but usually I don't have either. So
No,
I
yeah,
don't.
you can call it sex after show, whatever. Last question: is there anything else you want to see the audience in Vancouver?
So Vancouver, I am so excited to go to you guys. I have been wanting to go to Vancouver for many years, and I really hope to see you guys. I'll come out for the show. I'm the kind of comedian, like after the show, I want to stick around. If you guys want to take pictures, have some drinks, hang out, talk about experiences, talk about jokes, I am so for it. You want to just practice your English with me? That's cool. If you want to practice your Chinese with me, 我们也可以,多说中文. If you like my accent, 我有非常特色的口音，知道吗？So 我也可以教你我的中文，我的中文口音。And I don't know. I'm so excited. I can't wait to be there, and I'll see you guys soon.
Sounds wonderful. Okay.